Again, welcome to Quantum Energizers meeting. Of course, the reason why we are doing this is number one, to be able to learn more about the technology. Also, we want to share it, especially to our friends and our loved ones. And also to answer some questions you might have. And another one is so that we can provide the support. This technology and this business that we are doing now is cannot be done, we believe, by just one person. And actually, the best way to share this is through this Zoom meeting like this, because based on our experience, if we alone will talk to someone, sometimes we are questionable. They question our, your integrity, what you're talking about, something like that. But once they see many people like us here, that we are gathered, when we try to share our experiences, all those doubts, all those questions disappeared from the mind, and they become open because they say, "Oh, so many people are using this," So that's why we encourage everyone to bring to this kind of meeting that we are doing those prospects that you have. Okay, especially right now, Ran is with us, and he has a lot of knowledge about the technology. He's been involved in developing this since the very beginning, and he's a research scientist, so he's been involved. It's a part of his day-to-day activity to do some research about science, about technology. So we are lucky to be able to, have him in our meeting like this. Okay, so right now, before we begin, before I give him the chance to speak, I just want to know if there's any one of you here right now who want to share the latest experience that you have, because all of us are using the technology. So is there anything you can share with us that happened lately, or something that you had not shared with us before? Art? Okay. Yoli, do you have anything?
No po, not now.
Okay. So anyway, I just want to share something before I give it to Ron. As most of you know, the reason why I involved with this technology was my more than 20 years problem with the gout, okay, inflammation, arthritis. I suffered a lot, and I was desperately looking for something natural that can help me. And in the answer I've got when I started using Limbic. That was the first one. The second one, the second benefit that I noticed is, I've shared to you already. I noticed my eyesight has improved a lot. This is not my real eyeglass. This is just a reading glass. There's almost no power, and I can even drive without this. Okay, I'm just become used to it. That's why I keep because I've been using eyeglasses for more than 40 years now. So that's why it becomes part of my life. So it's just like when you used to wearing a necktie, you feel like you're nude without that. So that's why I'm still using this. Now, the third one that I noticed lately is my hair is starting to grow back. If you notice, this is not I used to comb my hair. I part it this way. This is my original hair when I was young. And I begin to I notice it's coming back, my hair. So I don't know why, but probably because of Limbic that I'm using. That's the one that's helping me. There's still so many things that we don't know, so many things that we will discover. So just hang on, experiment, just like what I keep telling people, and then we have to help the technology. When you use it, try to observe. If you're having some kind of overload, it maybe you need a combination of the ingredient, the virtual ingredients. We have to do that so that we can get the maximum benefit of using the technology. Okay, so I think I can tell you now to fasten your seatbelt, and one will share with us things that are exciting, anything that is new about the company and the product and about the research that he has been doing so far. So over to you, Ron.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to these kind of Zoom meetings, because this is probably the best way that we can get the information out to people and help them understand what this technology is about. And this evening, I'm going to share with you some, detailed research to help you understand why this technology works the way it does. And this is information I've gathered over the years, but I put some of this together specifically to help people understand that when they get these results, how did it happen? And I think I have found a way to better tell that story. And before we begin, though, hey, by the way, I wanted to share with you some research I found about the other day. Yeah, they discovered they wanted to find out why little ants that live in the ground, why they're so healthy. So they did this research, and they discovered that they have little antibodies. That's a joke, guys. Antibodies, little antibodies. Okay. So in any event, I hope you enjoyed that joke. But anyways, before we start, I always like to share a disclaimer. It's just because that's the society that we live in now, and there's certain boundaries we can say and things. And my intentions are not to do some of the things that are on here, but just know that all the information that I share with you is commentary or opinion. And much of this information is based on my personal experiences, as well as my interpretations of current science, and is provided for educational and sometimes entertainment purpose, like the antibody joke, okay? It's not intended as a substitute for professional advice of any kind, nor any of the products or services and things we talk about this evening. They're not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. So as we get started, I wanted to share with you, because I talked to so many people throughout the world, I'm finding out they all have the same questions. So I wanted to create answers to some of these questions that they have. And it's really, when a person uses this technology, you can't see it, right? So how do you know it's working? How do you know this thing is really working? And the other thing, for you to understand that information and energy can get to your body instantly and do some favorable things, you have to understand the makeup of our reality. And this is the place I want to take you this evening. We're sitting here, most of us were in front of a computer and watching a Zoom presentation. Some of you might even be on your cell phone. And we look around us, everything in our reality appears to be physical, right? We live in a physical reality. That's the perception that we have. But you see, scientists look at that physical reality and discover that, something? Our reality is not physical at all. It's not physical at all. Nothing that you see, touch, see, or feel, including ourselves, are physical. Now that probably surprises some people, but when you do the science on it and you go to a place called quantum physics, see, quantum physics is the study of the very small, okay? What is our reality made up of? What everything we see, touch, and feel, even it may be something alive, it may be something not alive, it might be just a piece of wood or a piece of plastic, or maybe it's a plant, or maybe it's ourselves. If we were to look at what all this stuff's made up of, and you had a powerful enough microscope that you could look at stuff and find out, you know, what's the physical building blocks of all this? And here's what happens. They get it down to this, you know, this powerful microscope. You're able to get down to the cellular level. Of course, our eyes can't see down to the cellular level. And so it goes below that to the molecular level, goes to the atomic level, and then it goes to the subatomic level. We're trying to find what are the building blocks of physical reality. And as you get to the smallest building blocks of physical reality, the big discovery is it's not physical. It's nothing but energy, little balls of energy, and they're in motion like crazy. It's like if you see our solar system, how our planets revolve around the sun, the same thing happens at the microcosm. These little balls of energy go really fast around, you know, like the center of it's called a nucleus, which is comprised of these little balls of energy called protons and neutrons. And what's spinning around these are little balls, just like in our solar system, but they go real fast. They're called electrons. And these electrons, again, they're nothing physical. They're little balls of energy. And all these things are vibrating. And the electrons go at different speeds, some faster than others. Some of them are bigger than others. The same with the protons and neutrons. And some of them are different sizes. There's different combinations and counts of how many spin around the nucleus, and there's different counts on the protons and neutrons. So there's unlimited possibilities of these little balls of energy that make up something, okay? First of all, I want you to know, before we get into some detail here, that this motion that you can't see, just think of that. You're sitting in front of a desk, and just imagine if you were to get that microscope and look at the desk, what it's made up of, and you get to that level, it's nothing but moving energy. It's just moving like crazy. And then they have technology. I've known about it for 30 years, so it's not really all that new, but they have little devices that can measure frequencies of any object. You can take a frequency reading of a plant, like an herb. You can take a frequency reading of certain types of foods or essential oils, or something that's not a plant, like a piece of wood, or maybe some plastic or a rock, okay? And there's always a frequency that's recorded in these devices, meaning that, see, frequencies are kind of like a sound wave. It's giving off a humming noise. We can't hear it, but it's there. And how can that happen? Well, the reason why there is a frequency there is because there's a lot of motion going on. And these things are moving around really fast in our atmosphere. And when you do that, it creates a sound wave. Now our ears can't hear it because we don't have the equipment fine enough to being able to comprehend that and hear that, but it doesn't make it any less real. It's real at the quantum level. So these little devices, they record all this motion that's going on in what appears to be physical stuff. But again, underneath at the quantum level, man, this thing's moving like crazy. It's alive and making all kinds of sounds, and it has its own unique frequency. Now, the frequency that's coming from this, let's give you an example. Let's say we take a rose bush. I'm just making up something here. Let's take the rose petals from a rose bush. Everybody knows what that is. If you were to take the rose petals from a rose bush and break it down to its lowest common denominator, first of all, there is a technology called gas chromatology. Gas chromatology is able to rip apart any botanical, like a rose petal, and find out what is all the stuff what are the chemicals, what are the phytochemicals that are comprised that make up that rose petal. And on the average, so that, you know, in the plant life world, there's approximately 200 various chemicals on almost every plant that's out there. 200 different phytochemicals will make up a plant on average, okay? So let's say that we want to look at one particular chemical that lives in a rose plant. Using gas chromatology, you can identify the various chemicals, and you can pick and choose which one you want to look at. Now, in using this technology, it actually gives you what they call the active ingredients. There's certain ingredients, and this technology will give you a spike on it to show you the more active, the stronger ingredients. Now, the drug company does this when, I'll give you a good example. When they discovered many years ago that white willow bark took away pain. Did you know that white willow bark is the main ingredient in all your aspirins? That aspirins come from the chemical that they found in white willow bark that actually is effective in taking away pain. And so what they do is they identify that particular phytochemical found in white willow bark, they extract it, and then they'll change one atom in the makeup of it. They take that atom, so it's not found in nature. If they change one atom, then it's not found in nature, and then they can sell it to you for 1,000,000 times more money than it cost them to make it, okay? And then they make a lot of money on that. But at the same time, it's still not, in my opinion, as good as the original white willow bark, but it's close to it. And it's not found in nature, so they can sell it to us and they can patent it. So one of the things, and I'm going to get off a little bit of a tangent here, one of the things about white willow bark, when they make it into that little aspirin that you take to take away pain, it's not made of substances found in nature. It's made of a petrochemical substance, which is basically oil, okay, crude oil. And they've learned how to take this petrochemical stuff and structure it, its molecular structure, to imitate things that they find in nature. The only problem with that, and by the way, they get close to it. In fact, if you were to go to a chemist and say, okay, here's this product, here's the chemical of white willow bark, and here's the molecular structure of it, which is showing how many atoms of certain, how many different types of atoms, how they're configured. And if a chemist makes that same chemical out of that petrochemical stuff, and it's the same structure, and you went to the chemist and say, what's the difference between this stuff found in nature, the same exact formula, versus the one that's man-made, and they'll tell you there's no difference. They'll say they're both the same, okay? I want to let you know that they are not the same. Your body knows the difference between taking a natural phytochemical found in nature and some 10W40, okay? Because that's what the petrochemical is. It's made of oil, and even though it's structured the same way, it's not the same. The body knows that it's not alive. And what I've discovered in my research over the years is that when you take that product, even though it appears to provide you some relief, it's probably one of the most not prescribed, you can buy it, but more people take aspirin than probably any other drug that's ever on the planet, okay? That's why I'm picking on it. But at the end of the day, they're telling you that it's really helpful for you, it's good for your heart and all that kind of stuff. My research suggests that it isn't, okay? And there's a lot of research that support that. And I believe it can block cellular receptors, okay? And one of these days, we're gonna do a meeting here, and I'm gonna take you in my kitchen, and I'm going to take some white aspirin from, I'll cover the brand name so you don't know who it is, but it's an aspirin bottle. We'll pour out about 5 different aspirin. I'll put it in a big tablespoon, and I'll put it over a gas range, over a light, okay? And I'll keep it there, and you'll see what happens to it in about 60 seconds, 90 seconds, and 2 minutes. And you'll see that it will catch on fire eventually and turn into a black ooey goo, just like oil. and it'll catch on fire just like what oil catches on fire, or if you're burning a plastic, some piece of plastic or a piece of rubber tire. It acts the same way, and you're putting that in your body. Okay, I'll demonstrate that to you so you can see that all pharmaceutical products are made up of the same stuff. Okay, now I am sharing this with you because I learned many years ago, training under a medical doctor researcher who I became friends with, and he shared some of this information with me when he was doing research on, in his particular research, he was doing research on women who were estrogen dominant, and he discovered how their ovary receptors were blocked. And the ovaries, by the way, so most people don't know this, but in women, they produce a lot of estrogen. Men produce a lot of testosterone. That's the two major sex hormones, okay? But in women, and by the way, both male and females produce estrogen and progesterone. It's just that men produce more testosterone and women produce more estrogen. But in women, they also produce testosterone just a little bit, and it's produced on their ovaries. And as they get older, they become what the doctor called estrogen dominant. And I said, how do they get that way? And he says, because the receptors on their ovaries, and that's the place where they produce testosterone, that gets blocked. And he says that they need that little bit of testosterone to balance the amount of estrogen that they produce. And I said, well, and I asked him, that was many years ago. I said, well, do you know how to reverse this? And he says, no, I'll show you what we do to solve the problem. But I said, can you reverse the blockage of the receptor that's blocking the testosterone? He says, no, we haven't found a way to reverse that. And I said, do you know what's causing it? He says, yes, we do. I said, what is it? He says, it's pharmaceutical drugs. Okay. Now, in this case, I'll just complete the story for you. What he discovered, there is a precursor substance called progesterone. Progesterone is a precursor that makes testosterone, okay, in the human body. So what he did is he told people, when you have this problem, and many women, after they get over the age of 50 or more, this tends to play out. So he says, what you do is you get some testosterone, you get some progesterone, excuse me. It's a white substance, and you rub it on your skin so much per day, and it will balance your estrogen so that now you don't become estrogen dominant. And for the poor husbands that have to live with their wives, when gals become estrogen dominant, it normalizes their emotions so they don't go crazy, okay? And of course, the guys don't have to go crazy along with them. So in any event, so I learned this many, many years ago, and that was my first, the first experience I had that toxins, and he said pharmaceutical drugs are toxins, and they all are, and they block receptors. That was my first exposure to this happening. And now since then, 20 some years later, there's tons and tons of science that shows that everything's blocked that way. Now I got in a little bit of a tangent here. Let me reel me back in to where I originally was here. Okay, so what happens is that I want you to help you understand that everything in our physical world is not physical. And I want to explain to you how the Limbic arc technology works, because it interacts with the part of our world that's not physical, okay, which is everything, okay? And the reason why when we look around us and we see everything physical, it is not physical. At that subatomic level, everything is moving. It's crazy, all kind of activity going around. It's giving off sounds, which is called frequencies. And it's at that level that Limbic arc communicates with and passes information energy, which is important. And we'll get to that in a minute. Now, the other thing I wanted to share with you is, since we're talking a little bit about frequency, sometimes I've been asked, well, what's the difference between what you guys are doing? You talk about energy information, which is attached to Limbic arc, and there's some other companies out there that they sell what they call similar technologies, but they're frequency based. So what's the difference there? I said, well, the difference is a big difference. First of all, I want you to know that frequency does have value, but it is not as valuable as information. And let me explain why. That frequency, remember that at the molecular subatomic level, when we're looking at these little subatomic particles that are moving around more fast, well, they give off a sound. It's measured. That's basically your frequency. That's just a byproduct of what they are. That little white willow bark phytochemical, for example, it has its own unique signature. The way that protons and neutrons and how many there are, how they're positioned, how fast the electrons are moving around it, how many there are, their slants, all these things make a unique fingerprint. It can be measured in a frequency to show that that frequency is always white willow bark. And we can capture the energy information from that configuration of those subatomic particles, and in that information is contained everything about the phytochemicals of white willow bark, okay? The sound that comes from that is just a side effect of these subatomic particles moving. Now, so those frequencies, again, they have some value, but they do not contain all the information that's contained in white willow bark at that subatomic level, that configuration of it. And so even though, like I said, frequency has value, it's just a part of the total information package that comes with any botanical or any chemical of a botanical, okay? So our company captures that very essence, that information that is attached to that. And then Dr. Cook has created a way for his system to interface with us. Now, what's that mean? Well, I call it biofeedback, but when it interfaces with us, then it ties into our innate intelligence. What is our innate intelligence? Our innate intelligence is, it's our subconscious, okay? And it's very powerful and it's very big and it knows everything. By the way, everybody has a subconscious, everybody has a conscious, okay? Those two elements represent our intelligence. The conscious mind intelligence is a very tiny part, which is really still smart, but it's a very tiny part of the subconscious intelligence knows everything. Every one of us are so much smarter than we know. I mean, we know everything there is to know if you know how to tap into the subconscious. Now, Dr. Cook has learned how to do this in a limited way. When I say limited, I mean it's limited to what we're talking about, botanicals. We have imponderables and things like that. But it's limited to a specific library of nutraceuticals. It's kind of like, it's the same as if you were to walk into a health food store and this health food store offered all these different ingredients and products and formulas and things. It's like that's your health food store. You can purchase anything you want out of there as much as you want and then use it as much as you want for $100 a month. What a bargain, okay? And that's what this technology is like. And so that's the reason why I think it's probably one of the best bargains on the planet because of that. The information that we're providing is information that your body knows what to do with it. It receives it because we are not physical. We are made of energy, okay? The same information and energy that we can, when we look at ripping something apart, no matter what it is, down to the molecular, down to the subatomic particle version, that's the level we communicate with the information of our own makeup. We call that, in humans, we call that our personal fields. Your whole construct of your body, that energiness about us, we call it our personal fields. Now, that personal field can get interrupted. In fact, the interruptions in that personal field are the dots that I connect to why we have illness and disease, okay? If you connect some other dots here, you'll find that our friend, Dr. Linus Pauling, who's a great researcher, of course, he's passed on now, and had a chance to chat with him a number of times. He's a two-time Nobel Prize winner in medicine. And he basically said, he made it real simple. He says, you know, all illness and disease, no matter what it is, the dots he connected, okay, in his research, shows that anybody who has an illness disease, you can always trace it to a nutrient mineral deficiency. Okay, so a nutrient mineral deficiency. Now, he wasn't into the stuff that we're into quantum physics. He was in biochemistry. His world was biochemical. That's our physical world, okay? But when you break down our physical world, which could be construed as biochemical, what are those biochemicals made up? Because we're biochemical machines, at least the perception is. But when you break down those biochemicals, all you have is energy information. So at Limbic Arc, we are communicating at that level and providing the missing stuff that your personal field needs to be healthy and strong. Okay. Now, the other thing you need to know is your personal energy fields. When you get your energy field adjusted back to where it's supposed to be or closer to where it's supposed to be, it takes biology, or it takes your body approximately 8 days to go through a complete cycle to adjust to that energy field. Reason why I say this to you is because when you do spark scans or info boost, I would suggest that you don't change those for at least 8 days. Now, our program defaults at 14 days, and that's okay. 14 days is great, but I would say don't run those less than 8 days, because it takes your body 8 days to do a complete cycle to get the best benefit, okay? So first of all, I want you to understand that what Dr. Cook has done, and it's really brilliant. He's done 3 different things to help this technology work and make us, you know, have a better quality of life. It has a biofeedback component. It has the ability to communicate between the conscious and subconscious back and forth, and it also ties in with the quantum field. And these are the 3. If with any one of those being missing, this wouldn't work properly. Okay, and so he's had to have education and training in all these areas. Now, over his lifetime, his most significant experience as an Oriental medical doctor, meaning that his training is Eastern medicine. Okay, now Eastern medicine is different than Western medicine. Eastern medicine is, in fact, I think it's much more effective. My personal experience with Western medicine hasn't been positive. When I grew up and I was a young man, I was sick for over a decade. I mean, really sick, and I couldn't find out what the heck was going on. And the docs couldn't help me. They tried all these different things, could not solve the problem. And for over a decade, it was about 12 years. In my 20s and 30s, I was just so sick, okay, and could not solve the problem with Western medicine. And it was one day, and by the way, when you looked at me, I looked fine. I looked healthy. They couldn't find anything. It's just like, I know I'm sick, but nobody can tell me that they found anything that says you're sick. And it was very frustrating, okay? You know, there's a lot of people in the world that are like that. And years later, I discovered what the problem was, but they didn't have the answers. And one day, I was invited to a birthday party in my, you know, I was probably 35-ish, and I get to meet this young lady. She was a naturopathic doctor, and we were celebrating her 106th birthday, 106 years old. I met this young lady, and I'm sitting here talking to her and thinking, here she is at 106, still practicing medicine as a naturopathic doctor. Her wits are about her, as sharp as a tack, and I'm sitting in front of her as a young 35-year-old guy, sick as can be. And I thought, what is wrong with this picture? What is wrong with this picture? So as I got to know her better, and I did, we became friends, and she took me under her arm, and she started teaching me things that I wish I had been taught many years before. And so she put my feet on a different path. I started implementing the strategies and things that she knew about health and nutrition and how to heal my body. And within several months, I was able to restore my health after losing it for over a decade. And so it changed my life to move in another direction. I was the CEO of a big electronics company. Okay. I was totally going down another path, didn't know that much about health and nutrition. And there I was with this young lady, as brilliant as she was, still just, 106 years old, still taking care of herself and still practicing medicine with patients. It was amazing, isn't it? Well, so that changed my life and took me down this different path. And so since then, I have been fortunate in my life because my business decisions, things I've done, I've done okay financially. So it allowed me to spend hours every day doing research on this very subject because it was so fascinating that she had changed my life. In my opinion, she saved my life. And so I spent the next 30 some years, 35, 6, 7, 8 years now, doing research on everything I could find out about health and nutrition, which led me down a path like quantum physics later on, led me to, I became a clinical hypnotherapist because I learned that the mind is very important and how we think. So I wanted to know more about that. So I went down that path and I got schooled in that and then biofeedback, what Dr. Cook does. And all these things came together. So when I met Dr. Cook and he shared with me what he was doing, it was like all my training and experiences I've had in all those years came to be focused on something that was captured in one product offering. And so when I met Dr. Cook and he shared with me what this is about, I was all in. I thought, oh, this is amazing. But I said to him, I hope it works because I can't help you if it doesn't work. And then, of course, he said, don't worry about that. You'll have your plenty of experiences. Now, having said that, I knew Dr. Cook because I helped him early on in his beginnings of his other company. Okay. So I knew he's a pretty sharp guy. And by the way, one of the guys that we were trained under, he's a physicist. I trained under him and also Dr. Cook. And Dr. Cook and I didn't even know each other. We were at different places when we were doing this, but we had the same tutor. And we learned this years later. And we were tutored under this guy at the same time, but with different locations. And so I found out with this physicist, the things that he was doing, Dr. Cook had borrowed, if you will, some of that technology to help create his company called Zyto. And so, I had some great experiences with that technology. We don't have enough time to talk about it, but that was the beginnings of Zyto, which became the beginnings of Limbic because Dr. Cook wanted to take his expensive equipment that he sells to practitioners for $15,000 to make it available to the average guy in the street for $100 a month. Okay, and ever expanding because he's going to be bringing other new technology that's going to be incorporated into Limbic Arc. It's even better than what we have now. Okay, and in fact, some of that's going to happen this year. You're going to see some pretty cool stuff come available. If you think what we've got now is cool, wait till you see some of this new stuff coming on board. Okay, so in any event, when I start using this, I start realizing something. I told Dr. Cook, I said, look, he wanted me to help him because I have experience in this market doing this, but I've been retired. When he contacted me, I was retired. And I wasn't planning on, getting back on the saddle again. Okay. And he asked me if I do that. And I said, look, if it works and I can have good experiences, I'll help you do this. So I came out of retirement. We worked on it for about 9 months before anybody else could see it. And finally it launched. So I start using it. And I had some amazing experiences myself. And I do these Zooms throughout the world, throughout the week. I do Zooms in Germany, in Poland, okay, Yugoslavia, in of course Australia. I'm doing in Spanish speaking now, of course in the U.S. market, and you guys, okay. And so I get to communicate with so many people, and they share their experiences of what they're having. They're pretty amazing. I've had researchers, these are even medical doctors, I mean, official medical doctors, having experiences with things that they're scared to tell their associates because they're not schooled that way. But the results they're getting are amazing. And then with me, think of this for a minute. Here I am, I'm in my 70s, and for the last 10 years, I have suffered from, well more than that, but the last 10 years, I've suffered from asthma. I mean, everybody knows what asthma is. Asthma is an inflammation of the bronchial tubes in the lungs. Now, there can be a lot of things that can cause asthma. It's almost numerous things, but there's some type of an allergic thing that causes an inflammation in the bronchial tubes. And what it does and many people die of it, it gets so severe because it constricts the bronchial tubes and shuts up and you just suffocate. But there's something irritating, causes inflammation. And what the symptoms are, of course, I've been diagnosed with, so it isn't like I made it up. It's an official medical diagnosis with x-rays and all that. So what happens, you have a pressure in your chest. It's almost like it could be interpreted as even as like a heart attack, but it isn't. It's the bronchial tubes. It creates pain. There's pressure. You cough all the time, and you're short-winded if you try to do exercise and things like that. Those are some of the symptoms of asthma, and millions of people have asthma. Well, I've had this for 10 years, and it's progressively got worse as I've got older. So, it's concerning. Now, over a year ago, when we start implementing the voice-activated spark scan in our program, many of you probably are familiar with that, I started using that, and I started realizing, okay, there wasn't any, when I first started using it, there wasn't any big thing that I felt or saw, but I noticed after a few weeks doing this, that I just in general felt a little bit better. I could get better sleeps at night. I woke up a little bit better, rested in the morning. So those are the early signs that I saw that maybe something positive is happening here. But after, it was, in fact, I guesstimate it was about 3.5 months into this, my asthma disappeared. I mean, it just plumb disappeared. And it has been gone for over a year. I mean, it is totally gone. Now, I haven't done anything in my life to change. I haven't changed my diet, haven't changed anything that I do. The only thing that's different is I'm taking the energy information associated with the spark scan with Limbic Arc. Now, let me tell you the dots that I've connected to how this may be happening and how I got those results, okay? Now, I'm unique. It might be different for you, or you might have some other issues, but the key thing is this technology is designed to help provide your energy field what it is that you need to bring your energy field back into balance, which then your biology follows. That's how this works. And the reason why I think it's significant is because in our day and age right now, we are all loaded with toxins, and toxins block the ability for nutrients, like Dr. Linus Pauling said, blocks the nutrients that your body needs to be healthy and strong. And we're all victims when it comes to this because we all have toxins in our body. We live in a modern world. We can't get away from it. We all have them. So, but it depends on which toxins you have and which receptors are blocked and which microbiome that might be disrupted because of it. It might be due to what's called nutrient competition, or the newest thing, it might be due to electromagnetic pollution. And we are all exposed to electromagnetics. Right now, all of us are experiencing, we're on a Zoom together, we are all being exposed by electromagnetics, okay? Some of us have more of an exposure than others. Now, this technology, first of all, identifies if you have an exposure and even rates it how badly it is. So if it's an exposure in the technology, it's in the 80 and 90% range, it's basically saying, okay, that's your yellow light on your dashboard. You've got a maintenance problem here. You got to do something. If it gets in the 90s or high 90s, that's your red light coming on. Say, you got to stop right now, figure out what's going on here. Now, the neat thing about this technology with electromagnetic exposure is that you can select it, and Dr. Cook designed this with the intent that it will interrupt the electromagnetic frequency exposure that you have, so it won't hurt you. And as I've experienced this and gone through it, I've discovered, oh my gosh, it does. It takes it away. And every time I run it, it gets lower and lower to where it's not a problem anymore. It will come back if you don't run it, if you still have the exposure. But at least we have something that helps us, first of all, identify it. And by the way, I want you to know, our electromagnetic exposure as we move into the modern world with 5G implementations may be the biggest single problem that we have for humanity in making us sick. And all the science I come across is showing this. So I believe we have a technology here that can help us navigate that minefield so we're not victims, okay? Now, the same thing happens when I look at what happened to me with my asthma. I look at this and say, what in the heck happened? How is it that for having asthma for 10 years, progressively getting worse, all of a sudden it disappears and it's been gone for over a year, when the only thing I've been doing are these voice-activated spark scans? Well, here's what I found, okay? This is my personal experiences. I've gone back in and I've looked at, first of all, understanding how this works. The technology is, first of all, interfacing with my intelligence, particularly my subconscious intelligence, which is my innate intelligence. It's the biggest communicator with the quantum field. And how it works is my intelligence now helps select out of that health food store library, okay, my virtual library of health food items or health items. It selected the ingredients and the formulas and things that my body was telling me that it would like to try out, okay, because it rated them in the 90s down to 80, 70, so forth. So I selected those and turned those on. And when I turn them on, I receive them instantly, because in the quantum field, it's the speed of thought. The speed of thought is much faster than the speed of light, so that you know this, okay? And so when I receive this, it comes in, it doesn't get clogged up in my biochemical pathways where all toxins block things like receptors and microbiome and all that. We don't get down to that physical minutia. It comes directly into your field and it bypasses that and it solves the problem. Just like when Dr. Cook told me years ago when he had the experience with the young lady who had scurvy. And the young lady, even though she had all these scurvy symptoms, her scurvies, they're still there, even though she was eating vitamin C food and taking vitamin C supplements. You look at that and say, how in the heck she has scurvy? In the olden days, the reason why people had scurvy is because they were missing something out of their diet. But that's not the case today. The reason why people have illness and disease today is primarily because the dots that I connect is they're loaded with toxins, and toxins are preventing the nutrients from assimilating in the body. So what we have is the ability to, first of all, identify that there's a shortage here. But if your body selects something that's high rated, it's probably because if you're not getting it in your diet, which probably isn't the case, it's probably because it's not assimilating, because we all got toxins in us. But now we get it directly into our field. It bypasses the biochemical pathways that block, that the toxins block these nutrients. We don't have to worry about that. It comes right into our field because our bodies are made to harvest information from our physical world, from the food that we eat, from supplements we take. That's how it works, okay? But now we don't have, it comes directly into our field, and this gal's scurvy symptoms went right away when she started taking the vitamin C info boost. Now, when I look at what happened to me, I found out, okay, I have a situation where I want to go back in all my past scans and see what my body selected, to see if I can identify the specific energy fingerprints, the names that we give these botanicals, and find out, and then do research in each one of them and find out what it is. And you know something, I came to some really cool conclusions. You could go back and restructure this thing. And here's what I found for me. I found that I had some botanicals in there. One in particular, one that I never knew before. And I know a lot of names botanicals, but I never knew this was a new one. It was called Lomatium. Okay, it's a Native American herb grown in the southwest part of the United States. And its claim to fame is that it killed pathogens, viruses, bacteria, and fungus that are deep-seated in lung tissue. And when I did the research on it, I discovered that the reason why the immune system can't attack it or get to these pathogens is because the mucus lining protects them from being attacked. So they can proliferate and grow. They can make your bronchial tubes inflame. They can do all these things, and my immune system can't touch them. But this particular herb, okay, was able to cut through that and kill them. Now, I never took the physical lomatium, only the energetic information form in Limbic Arc, okay? And I noticed that each time I did this, and I did a voice scan every 10, sometimes 14 days, I noticed that lomatium was lower and lower and lower. And it took 3.5 months before it disappeared off the radar. Another thing that I discovered, I wanted to know, okay, of the 3 pathogens, the fungus, bacteria, and virus, which one was it, okay? Well, I discovered because the other things that Dr. Cook incorporated in this called imponderables, he identified the various things called fungus and molds that your body's exposed to, so it would also rank them if you had a high marking. Guess what? I had some high rankings of a number of funguses that were high, and they also continued to go down and down and down and down. And at the same time, these other botanicals were help killing this and removing it. So the combination of those things together over a period of about 3.5 months, I just woke up one day and realized, oh my gosh, no more asthma. And by the way, how would I know this? Because during the fall months of the year, when I have more of the asthma thing going on, I'm nonstop coughing. I'm nonstop coughing. Okay, probably every 10 seconds. Okay, every 10 seconds, all the time unless I'm going to sleep. The shortness of breath and the pressure in the chest, something I learned to live with. But it is totally gone. I have zero of it, nothing, for over a year. The only thing I've done different is this technology. And as I've gone back to look at, I can see exactly the things that my body was selecting, the information, giving it to me. And I suspect that it's a more effective way to receive it because the information came directly into my field. My field received it, my body adjusted, and that's what happened. And so, these are the kind of stories that I hear these kind of stories all around the globe. My biggest organization right now is over in Poland, if you can imagine. In Poland, they're kicking butt over there. Man, they're turning the world on fire over there because they're having such great results with this technology. Here's what I suggest. This year, we spent so much time on helping people understand this technology, the value that they'd receive by using it, because having good health is a mystery sometimes. The first part of my growing up years, when I was sick for over a decade, that was a real mystery. Come on, I spent time with so many doctors, many doctors, and they all gave me different things they prescribed to help. Nothing touched it. They didn't even know what they were looking at. Neither did I. Okay, until I was educated by following this young lady at 106 years old. And then I start realizing there's another way to do this. What I see today with what Dr. Cook's put together here is it's another tool. It's a tool I wish I had many generations ago because I wouldn't have had to suffer that. But you know something? Maybe I needed to go through that experience because I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have done anything that I've been doing today. I wouldn't have learned the stuff that I've learned, except that I had to have a yucky experience in those younger years to help me change my life around and move in another direction and learn these kind of things. Okay, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation today. So when I look back at that, I'm thinking maybe that was destiny. Maybe I had to do that because I know a lot more today than I would have otherwise known had I had that experience. And so when Dr. Cook's put this together, it's a tool. It's a tool that allows us to mysteriously find out things. We can have people use it. And by the way, when you use this, stick with it for a while. Had I turned it off after my first month and felt that, well, I may feel better, but nothing big happened. But after almost 4 months later, something big did happen. It's kind of like peeling an onion. And every layer of the onion represents fixing something that took many years to get that way. So you don't, fix it overnight. And so it's getting that onion down to where finally it solves the problem, and it gives you better quality of life. In my case, my asthma symptoms are totally disappeared, and they're gone today, and I just don't have any of it. And that's an amazing thing to me, because nobody could find this. You know, I have using the technology. By the way, just real fast, my son, when I got involved in this way before I knew Dr. Cook 20 some years ago, with a similar technology from, I think it was Russia or Germany. In fact, it's the same technology Dr. Cook got involved with, the same physicist, because we knew him. And my son, I had a son, I don't know how old he was, maybe in his 20s, and he had some health problems. And of course, the docs couldn't figure out what was going on. And I used this technology, a technician, to run a test on him. And within 5 minutes, came back up. I know what the problem is. He's got a low-level infection. In fact, it even named what the pathogen was, the name of it and everything. So I came back to my medical doctor and I said, would you run a lab test on my son to see if he has an infection or something like that? He says, why would you think that? I said, just a gut feeling. Okay. So I remember the call that I got from him 3 days later, after they run the lab test and he got the results back. He called me on the phone. He says, how in the hell did you know that? I told him in advance what it might be, and none of his stuff could tell it until they took a lab test and they discovered exactly what it was. That technology, I want you to know, is the same technology we're using today. Okay, this is an amazing technology, and it's incorporated in Limbic art. And so what I want to share with you, this is, you know, everybody needs to share with this, your friends. This year, we need to reach outside our comfort level. We need to talk to our neighbors, our friends, our business associates. And the best way to do that, get testimony of what it's done for you. Okay, share with them what it's done for you, because that gets their attention. And they might want to say, well, geez, how does it work? And how, you can invite them to places like this, or say, you know, here's the results I have. Come to these Zoom meetings and you can see other people who have these kind of experiences. But you know something? This is a tool that will help you discover the things that's going on in your body that you don't know about, that may be, you know, harming you. You can find out what it is and bring it back into balance and have optimal health, because this is designed to provide a better quality of life, because it's involved with energy and information. Everything in our reality, no matter what it is energy information. That's the communication we're taking place here. The things that most people can't wrap their heads around is the fact that how you're turning this thing on, you access it by a phone, you turn it on and off and select stuff, and then this comes to you through the quantum field. Many people can't wrap their heads around it, but it doesn't make it any less true. It's phenomenal what it does. And by the way, some of the things we're doing here in the future that's coming online, that's outside the botanical world and the imponderable homeopathy world, when we're soon going to be announcing what we call the emotional side of this technology. And I want you to know, okay, the dots that I've connected, that the emotional components of what we'll be offering in the future may be more effective than what we've done heretofore. So that now we can go in and find out, because here's what I've discovered. Most illness and diseases have an emotional component that is embedded in your subconscious, okay? It's programs that communicate with the quantum field. The quantum field then provides you back what you're requesting from your intelligence. And we could go more into that. We've run out of time, but we could discuss that the next time. But just understand that when you identify negative emotions that's trapped in your subconscious and you neutralize this, and the way I know this is because I've been trained in hypnotherapists, that's what we do. We know how to go into people's subconscious, identify programs that maybe they inherited through their parents or grandparents or whatever, through DNA. We can find that blockage and that negative emotion, because it's energy. We can find it and we can neutralize it and flip it around and change it to something good. And it changes your life, because here's the thing. The things that you emote, that you send to the quantum world is designed as a gift by God, who responds to intelligence. We're the intelligence. You have to know how to respond properly to that. In the quantum world, I call it the quantum genie or the quantum serpent. It gives you, and it creates fields of electrons that create your reality, and it creates your physical reality. If you're emoting positivity, you can have a prosperous world. If you want to be healthy and strong, you have to know how to emote the proper thoughts to communicate so that you can create a world that, because everything's energy again, remember, the world that you create is what you emote, and we need to change the biggest part of our intelligent communication with the quantum world is the subconscious. Dr. Cook does this with botanicals and imponderables. We're going to expand it to emotions, and when we do that, I believe it's going to be a game changer. We're very close to doing that. So I've run out of time, guys. I appreciate you inviting me to this to help you understand and educate you about the power of this amazing tool. Just go out and share it with others.